Swivl Sessions, interviews with field service entrepreneurs. Get insights and strategies from those who took the leap and risked it all to start their own home service companies. Great session with David Cardenas from American Junk Removal out of Marietta, Georgia. Jeremy, what'd you think?
I have a couple takeaways from the conversation with David today. One, I thought that he has a good head on his shoulders and he's looking for the future of his own family, actually. And he, quoting him, he said, "You can teach our children through example." And I thought that speaks volumes about David. And also, in doing that, he chose an industry, he researched it and chose an industry in waste management that, in his words again, is recession-resilient. So I think David's really got a great future in front of him.
Yeah, his take on entrepreneurship, how you want that freedom, you want the financial freedom, but you want freedom to do other things. But also, it's not easy. You have to put the time in, and it was good to hear him talk about that. It can be a good role model, like you said, for his family. So, David Cardenas, American Junk Removal. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Swivl Sessions, where we dive into the world of field service entrepreneurship. Now, before we get into today's interview, let's introduce the host you'll be hearing from. So allow me to introduce Edgar, our resident sales guru with a talent for closing deals and a schedule that's flexible as his negotiation skills. Edgar brings invaluable insights into the field service industry when he's actually in the office, that is. Known for arriving fashionably late and leaving impressively early, he proves that quality trumps quantity every time. Despite his unique approach to office hours, Edgar's knack for boosting revenues and charming clients make him an indispensable part of our team. This mirrors his approach to understanding customer needs in the field service industry. Edgar.
I'm flattered by the kind words, Rob. Here I'd like to introduce Tyson. He's Swivl's resident customer service guru and the fittest guy in the office, mainly because he only takes the stairs. Whether it's 5 floors or 15, you'll never catch Tyson in an elevator. In fact, everyone here quietly acknowledges but never quite discusses. His dedication to keeping clients happy is as strong as his commitment to avoiding enclosed spaces that go up and down. That's Tyson.
Okay, you got me. I've been exposed. Appreciate that, Jeremy. And now we've got Rob, who somehow ran a very successful plumbing company, despite being more useful in a tent in the woods than with a wrench on the job. If there's a leak, you better hope he's off camping with that shiny new Yakima tent that he has, because at least we know the tools will be safe. Give it up for the man who'd rather pitch a tent than fix a pipe, Rob Heller.
Very good. Yeah, I've been accused of pitching tents. All right. So let's get started with today's episode of Swivl Sessions. Today we're excited to have welcome a special guest from Marietta, Georgia. Please join us in welcoming David Cardenas, the founder and driving force behind American Remediation Pros and Junk Removal. So David took the bold step into entrepreneurship by starting his own remediation junk removal company. We're eager to hear about what inspired him to launch his business, the challenges he's faced, and the insights he's gained along the way. So,
yeah,
David,
thanks, Rob.
Welcome to Swivl Sessions. Great to have you here. How are things going in your world? We got a little preview into what your world looks like today, so maybe you can start with that.
Yeah, glad to be here. As I mentioned before, I'm actually kind of juggling a few things as entrepreneurs often do. So I'm at the city of Atlanta, Fulton County courthouse, trying to get a marshal to serve an ex-client on a collection small. So yeah, never a dull moment in the world of entrepreneurship.
That is 100% true.
Yeah.
All right, so that's kind of the most unique place that we've had one of these recorded from. But so let's, if you don't mind, so I'd like to kind of go back in time to what is your background? Like, what brought you? What was your background before you jumped into this business?
Yeah, so it's technology sales for about 20 years, a little over 20 years. So some value-added resellers, cybersecurity, and I've always wanted to go into entrepreneurship. I always wanted to be a business owner, and for a few years there, I started studying the topic of acquisition entrepreneurship. So, one that I was on the right path as a person. I found researching all of that, the idea of being a business owner to be really rewarding. It just felt right. But then I also in the process learned that I wanted to focus on the home services industry. And so instead of waiting around to find the company that was the absolute right fit with the right seller, ready to agree to a reasonable price, I thought I would just start my own. So I started off with just junk removal and have since expanded my service offering to include restoration services. I view it to be an adjacent industry, which often also includes light demolition work, and so it allows me to make use of some of the assets that I have, and expand my service offering. And there's some other kind of reasons I did it as well. But yeah, I'm about a year and a half in, a little under a year and a half, and it's one of the most challenging things I've ever done. But it's also one of the best things I've done. I had been in sales for a while where I just felt kind of stagnant, kind of stuck, and I felt like I wasn't learning a lot. And case in point today, there's tons of opportunity to learn lots of new things when you venture into the world of entrepreneurship. And so that's one of the highlights. Is I am learning, and I have learned so much in that process. So that's super rewarding. Now I just got to figure out how to scale it so that it's as financially rewarding as maybe my previous career was.
That's great.
Does that answer your question?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give you
Very good.
Some. So going back to that pre-launch period, if I can ask another question of what were your expectations? And then I want to ask a follow-up question later on as to how they matched up to your expectations. You know what I mean? So I think there's always a perception about how rosy the picture is on the other side of it. What is your experience? What was your expectations before making the jump?
I think my expectations. I'm trying to figure out how to answer the question. Well, there's different types of expectations. The end game expectation, I think the only reason anyone gets into acquisition or entrepreneurship rather is to build something that's big that they can make a lot of money off of. So that's certainly one of my expectations, and that still is the case. I do believe that entrepreneurship can be one of the best, if not the best, way to achieving financial freedom. Another expectation is that you can grow something and have not only financial freedom, but just freedom with your time, right? You can have people working for you and have more control of your time. So that's another expectation that I had, that I continue to have, that's pretty accurate. I think there are some other expectations that I had that weren't so accurate. I felt like, I'm a pretty smart guy. I've got good credit. I can, spin up some digital marketing and scale up demand fairly easily. That is an expectation that wasn't, quite on target. So it just depends. There's lots of expectations that I had are on target. Some, weren't quite so close to reality. But I mean, back to what I said, you learn so much going through this process, and I certainly don't regret it. You're not going to be right 100% of the time ever in life. And so I haven't been right on everything, but I learned from those mistakes and just keep moving, right?
That's I guess when I asked some of these questions, they're kind of leading questions, and I pretty much know what the answers seem to be across the board, pretty similar with entrepreneurs like you, especially ones that are their backgrounds in sales. Always an optimist, and expectations of that we think we can do things right, and sometimes they're a little bit more difficult than we think.
Yeah, that's true.
And then And time-wise, oftentimes, well, not with guys like you, but people will think that they're going to be saving a bunch of time when they go into business. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to extract out of you. I mean, I know you talked about your expectations. Was your expectation that you'd be working less, but now you're working more, or vice versa?
No, I mean, I knew this was going to be difficult. I knew it was going to be time consuming. Yeah. So I don't think that was a big surprise. Um, you know, I think I would question anyone that has read any articles or stuff that's out there and thinks that starting a business is easy. I mean, there's a reason why it's got a high failure rate.
Right.
It's really freaking hard. But you know what? I would argue that anything worthwhile in your life, whether it's being a parent, whether it's whatever career path you've chosen, anything in your life that's worthwhile is probably pretty damn hard to achieve, right? It comes with challenges. It's not an easy path. So, is entrepreneurship an easy path? Hell no, it's not. But does that mean that you should do it? I would argue no. I would say it's super rewarding. It can be super rewarding, but it is arguably one of the most difficult things you will ever set out to do.
David, coming from a sales side of things, who was your target customer when you were getting started, when you were doing your planning, and how are you going to reach out to them?
This is, a B2C business model. So it's just, homeowners in, the greater Atlanta area. My outreach approach, I think, has evolved. I think initially I was like, we can just spin up some PPC marketing, buy some leads, primarily just all the different kinds of digital marketing. And, it's going to take some learning, but, we'll just dial up the spend on the digital marketing, and the demand will just, present itself. And so that's been the biggest learning is, digital marketing is hard. In fact, I would argue, at least in the home services space, so I would lump plumbing into this, that it's 15% operations and 85% marketing. The operations is easy, and can be fun. The hardest part of the equation is marketing. And in fact, that's one thing I've seen over and over again in the short time that I've been doing what I'm doing is that a lot of people, when they get their home services business to a place where it's successful, they often pivot into some sort of marketing company. They start a marketing company and they resell that expertise to other home service businesses. So yeah, that's by a wide margin the most difficult part of the process.
I think we'd call that you've developed new core competencies.
Yeah.
So if you develop a core competency, that's another product that you can sell.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've developed it yet. I'm still in that process. I'm developing that core competency.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a learning curve. Have you tried working with a media company who's already, across that learning curve on
Yeah, I have.
digital marketing?
Finding a good marketing partner is, again, part of the challenge because, there's no licensing or certifications required to go into the marketing business. There are just tons and tons of marketing companies out there, and making all kinds of claims, and it's some are a lot, I would say, are over promising and under delivering. So have I made attempts to partner with some marketing companies? Absolutely. Have I found a marketing partner that's that I think is going to help me scale? Not just yet.
Recognizing the importance of the environment, though, I was curious how, with removal services becoming more eco-friendly, how you guys are embracing sustainability.
Well, I think sustainability and sustainability and financial incentives are closely aligned in the waste management business, or at least junk removal. You're either paying to dispose of stuff, or in a scenario where things are being recycled, oftentimes you can be paid to get to recycle things. So the easiest thing to recycle is metal, right? So I can either just throw some rough numbers up there, either pay 6 cents a pound to get rid of stuff and it go to a landfill, which isn't the best place for it to go, we all agree, or I can get paid 6 cents a pound for someone to take it and recycle it. And there's a wide spectrum on at least on the recycling side on what recycling stuff is worth, but that's just an example. So I think it's the right thing to do, right? Keep stuff out of landfills, but it's also financially the right thing to do, right? I'd rather make a little money than have to pay money to get rid of stuff. So yeah, that's I think my philosophy on sustainability and waste management. Complex answer. I just think that it can be financially the right thing to do, and environmentally the right thing to do.
Yep.
In other words, I'd rather get paid to get rid of debris or waste than have to pay to get rid of it. So depending on where you're dumping, it's going to vary on what your cost is to dump things, but typically you're somewhere in the 6 cents a pound range. Conversely, if you're recycling stuff, you can get paid anywhere from 6 cents to 60 cents a pound. So if you put in a little effort to categorize things, organize things, you can easily make a little money recycling things and keeping them out of the landfill. So financially, it's in your best interest, but it's also in the community's best interest as well. So that's depends on sustainability and waste management.
Can I ask about your customer mix? I know you were saying it's mostly a B2C, yet here you are at Fulton County Municipal,
right,
filing a lien on a customer or getting a marshal to serve. So what kind of commercial accounts have you gotten into, and tell me about that. Is this something you didn't expect to be doing, or were you seeking these commercial accounts?
No, so it's B2C, but there's still some commercial clients that I work with. Property managers, plumbers on the restoration side of things.
Yeah.
I would say insurance agents are another kind of vertical that I'm targeting. So yeah, that was expected as expected. In fact, one of the things that I'm currently focused on is bringing on some sort of virtual BDR to empower that B2B outreach, creating some sort of a funnel of property managers, plumbers, and insurance agents for me to align myself with. And I've done some of that already. And in fact, those are probably some of my best clients because it's reoccurring work. So yeah, that's a great learning that I had along the way.
So, David, do you find that when you're working with commercial clients, you have to give up some of your profit margin in order to get that repeat business?
Not necessarily. It just depends. For example, when you're working with an insurance agent, they're not going to expect any compensation for referrals, whereas maybe if you're working with a plumber,
Right.
they are, right? So it just depends. And then
Right.
property managers, they're probably not going to expect any compensation, but they may be in a position to expect lower pricing. So it just
Right.
depends on who you're reaching out to.
So I would say on the next questions, so we're looking at current state, but I guess current state and your immediate after launch state probably meshes together, I would say, because you're in the first year. So you've expanded your product mix, and now you're going into remediation. And how has that been? And so quickly jumping into a whole new product line, has that been distracting? Has it really been beneficial scaling up your scope?
Yeah. Let me explain why I did it first. So one of the challenges of
Right.
junk removal is first it's not recurring revenue typically, unless you're dealing with a property manager. But more often than not, it's not recurring revenue, and relative to the home services industry, it's low ticket. Industry wide, the average job size is $400. That's fairly low ticket. So that's just not a great combination. In general. And so one of the things I looked at is growing the service offering into restoration and in that line of business because the average ticket size is a lot bigger. So, for example, in restoration, the average job size is about $5,000. And so you're talking about a little over 10x average ticket size. And there are some parallels, right? You've got a similar commercial customer base. You've got some similar overlapping activities. Light demolition are things that's done by both business models. And so, so far it's been good. I've gotten some jobs under my belt, and the initial indication is I'm on the right track. I've also found that, the light demolition work in the context of restoration is easier to sell than as a standalone in the junk removal world. So, for example, if I'm doing a restoration job and we're doing a flood cut or we're doing flooring demolition because it's become damaged, and that is a line item in the context of a broader scope. My experience is the customer doesn't say, "Oh man, that's a lot of money for that demolition work and for hauling away the associated debris." Whereas if you're just doing standalone junk removal or debris removal, you experience more of that haggling. So yeah, I love the fact that it's higher ticket price, and that to some extent the customers seem to be less price sensitive.
Yeah, that's always a good segment to move into.
And I mean, the other thing I really like about restoration is it's recession resilient. The work is a need, not a want, right? When there is an accident, a water loss, or some other kind of loss, typically, I mean, the work's got to get done, and that was one of the things that attracted me to the waste management industry. If I had to talk about what my desired end state is, it's a service offering, a portfolio of businesses that are focused on recession resilient services, within the home services industry. I love things that are recession resilient. So yeah, I would say waste management can be recession resilient. Restoration is recession resilient. And for that reason, I really like it.
Yeah, that's good. That way you can avoid, not just recession, but any kind of seasonality.
Yeah,
get your cash flow straightened out, right?
That's right. Yeah, everyone loves nice, steady flows of income.
Yes.
What I was about to say was scratching my technology itch, and given your background in technology, I was just curious what role it's playing with American junk removal right now and helping you guys grow or be more efficient.
I think just having a general level of comfort with technology.
I mean, like technology, I think you're referring to software.
Used from a software perspective,
yeah,
and how you like it or don't like it.
Housecall Pro is what I use. It's okay. It's been a good platform. I think my technology background put me in a position to understand the power of AI, and one of the tools from a tech stack perspective did I lose you guys? Okay. That I use on a daily basis that I heavily use is ChatGPT. I think it's a great time to be an entrepreneur because anything that you don't know, got a smart little helper that can literally be in your pocket.
Pivotal.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but there's also AI apps now that can help you with assessing the cost for reconstruction. So in the restoration space, you have, like I said, light demolition. That light demolition has to be rebuilt. And there's apps now where you can take a photo of the project, type of a few prompts in there of what you're trying to do, and it breaks down the labor, it breaks down the materials, it tells you what it should cost. And so I would say my background put me in a position to understand the power of AI, and I've used AI a good bit um, to support me in things that I'm not an expert in. I am relying on it heavily as I kind of venture into this new world.
That is great. All right, I'm gonna plug Swivl here real quick, but we haven't launched yet. We're scheduled to launch the software in a couple weeks, but the roadmap for AI integrations is long. So you are 100% right. It is a great time to be developing things like this and adding, you know,
Mm-hmm.
AI in every aspect of software for something like this. And just like you said, to really augment those areas that we're not experts in.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of those areas. But yeah, that is great, and I totally agree with you on that. So we're kind of running out of time, and we'll wrap it up in a minute. But I did want to kind of ask you about your future state. You hinted towards it that you want to. It sounds like you want to continue to grow your scope of offerings for recession-proof home
Mm-hmm.
services, and this might be through acquisitions as well as just organic growth. What is what does that look like? And then what do you think your exit strategy would be, and how long?
Yeah. So there's a lot there. Acquisition and a
Yeah.
possibility. Sure, it is. Yes. Um, right now, I'm primarily focused on organic growth, service offering grow. Yeah, I think the restoration industry. There's lots of stuff in that industry. There's water, there's mold, there's
Mhm.
trauma, there's fire, there's asbestos,
Yeah.
and so right now I have IICRC certifications for trauma and water. I'm looking to add mold next. And then, I may continue to expand that offering. But, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for service uh, offering expansion just within restoration itself. And so outside of that, I'm not, I don't know. I think that the plumbing or business interests me a lot just because it's also adjacent. And it's when people think of home services, it's one of those pillar
Yeah.
trying to dissuade me from it. Everyone thinks of
Yeah, I could
H
argue
and
against that,
plumbing,
but
right?
it could be rewarding. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. What is your exit strategy?
So
Just
my
build it all and
goal,
see what happens?
$2 million. My number is $2 million of EBITDA. I think at $2 million of EBITDA. I think the valuations change a little bit. Defining success, that's number. If I'm able to build either a portfolio or a business that hits that number, then I think I can pat myself on the back. I can start considering selling out.
Yep.
Um, but that's this whole thing has been fascinating. This conversation has been fascinating.
Your location has been fascinating.
Yeah, you get all
Yes, your
the stuff.
location for sure has been fascinating. But yeah, I mean, so your insights in starting your business and running it, and where you're planning on going, you're obviously incredibly intelligent, and so you're going to do really well. I can assure you of that. Is there anything before we get before we wrap things up? Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to share with our listeners, perhaps some advice for those who are looking to follow in your footsteps, some aspiring entrepreneurs, or maybe some other projects you might be excited to talk about?
Yeah, I just echo the fact that it is a difficult path. But another thing to keep in mind that's been important to me is the example that I'm setting for my kids. I think for those of us that are
Yeah,
parents out there, know the importance of teaching our children through them watching us, right? Through example. And
yeah,
so I think if I could be the architect of my kids' future, I would love for them to be an owner versus an employee for their career. And to the extent that I can influence that by setting that example, I think that's pretty awesome. Growing up, my dad was an engineer, and I just was of the belief that, you go to college, which I did, and you find a good job and you just work at that job, and that's what you should do. There's just a whole nother world out there, and I would argue that's a great path. It's a good path, but if you're so called, that entrepreneurship can be so much better and rewarding. And so if you're a parent, think about the example you're setting. And entrepreneurship could be really powerful by setting that example for them.
Agreed.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, and your story will undoubtedly resonate with many aspiring entrepreneurs out there, inspiring them to pursue their own paths. So a huge thank you to David Cardenas for sharing those insights. And it's clear how much work and passion and dedication you've already put into it, and I'm sure you're going to be doing a lot more of that in the future. Now, for all of you watching or listening, if you're in the Metro Atlanta, Marietta, Georgia area and need some remediation or junk removal, make sure to reach out to American Remediation and Junk Removal. You can find their contact information right here on the screen. They're ready to help you with your next project, and you can trust that you're working with an expert in the field. So once again, thank you, David, for being here with us on Swivl Sessions. Thanks for listening or watching. Thanks for listening or watching. Swivl's field service software is everything you need to run your field service for free. Till next time, check us out at swivl.tech. That's SWIVL.tech.